Peter. What's going on, man?
No, not much. How are you?
I'm all right. I can't figure out how I am. That's the problem. We just spent 45 minutes on the therapeutic Davenport of love. Not because, I'm so mad that the 2-point conversion didn't work, or Nolan Ryan threw it 102 miles per hour to Jefferson on 3rd and 4 late that probably would have won the game. Or we couldn't find any lie-in between the linebackers and the safeties for 2 hours of real lifetime. It's not that, because I know all of that is fixable. We've seen how good it can be and will be again. I'm just going to lay it out like this for Pete Bercich, analyst for the Vikings Radio Network. Off the game yesterday, how do you feel now that you've had a sleep and some time to think about it into the Rams game? How do you feel about that game yesterday?
I think it's frustrating because you did so many of the right things, but then didn't take care of the little things. I mean, let's face it, when you play a team like Detroit, arguably one of the best teams in the NFC, it's going to be a close game, period. I mean, Detroit's been just murdering people for their last couple of games, right? We go into this game that they scored 89 points in their last 2 games, blah blah blah, and so they're rolling. You find a way to get up on them quickly. You lose that lead because you make some mistakes and they're a good team. So it's going to be a close game. I mean, neither team's going to roll in and just, beat the tar out of one another. So in that respect, it's frustrating because of the mistakes and the type of mistakes, meaning mental errors, right? And that's what happens when you play a good team or you're playing a good back like Jahmyr Gibbs, and on his long touchdown run, you have a couple guys fitting in the wrong gaps. Normally that means the running back gets to the second level, but with Gibbs, he can make a guy miss and then he takes it to the house. That's a big difference.
Right.
With Jared Goff, he understands that we do a lot of different things up front, but play a cover 2 shell. And I think when he had time to throw the football, he knew exactly where to go with it. I think the Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown, no question about it. It was a mental error on defense. The other one to, Khalif Raymond was absolutely a mental error. You don't have one defender in a flat when you have 2 wide receivers going that way, so somebody underneath screwed that up.
Nordo said Gilmore slipped, and I haven't watched the playback yet. I believe him. I mean, Gilmore probably slipped.
Gilmore, I mean, you talking about Ivan Pace? He spun himself around and fell down.
Well, that might have been it. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean
right now.
It's. But either way, there's a mistake, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. And so normally against a team, if there's a mistake being made, you move the chains and you go from there. But in this case, against the Lions, they're good and their guys scored. So I think the frustrating part is not being as mentally sharp as possible coming out of a bye and playing the number 1 team in your division, perhaps the number 1 team in the NFC.
Yeah.
When you're stepping on a field to take on that equation, you would expect the guys to be as sharp as they possibly can be, and that those things, the penalties and those sort of things, will be kept to a minimum. And it really wasn't the case. And then the other part of it is just I have to watch film and make sure I'm right on this, but my gut feeling is that they mixed a lot of man and zone, and when Darnold sees man, he wants to hold on to the football. He just doesn't, it's like he just doesn't want to just let it go, throw it. So that really messes, I think, with the rhythm of this offense, especially in the passing game. Aaron Jones got all but 2 of the carries. That's a concern. But, so there's a lot of little things sprinkled in, you know what I mean, all throughout this equation that gives you that nasty feeling, right? This gives you that, like at halftime, I sat there and looked at you and I said, what's the longest drive that we've had offensively?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that was a concern. But second half, they came out and put together some good drives. So they addressed that. And, it's not being razor sharp coming out of a bye. That's the part that maybe is the most disappointing. The good part though, Paul, we're not talking today about, hey, we've got a problem with this offensive line position because this guy just can't handle, he just can't hold up. We don't have and we only have one wide receiver per se. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The conversation is more about what our guys didn't do, not what we don't have.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good thing. I can't wait for Thursday night because I off the top of my head, listening and reading a little bit about the Rams Raiders game, to win by 5 points against a team that turns the ball over 4 times, loses their starting quarterback, and you win by 5. It's like, okay, what's going on there? So hopefully we take the field Thursday night because, when you lose, you want to get back on the field as quickly as possible. These guys will go out there and just dictate terms to the Rams. And if we go out there and do so, and, we don't have to beat them by 50, but you beat them pretty soundly. I'll feel much better about it.
Now, the Cashman omission. All right. I didn't get loud about that last week simply because I didn't feel it was right. I knew it was pivotal. I mean, early in the week, I'm like, this is a bad game to not have Blake Cashman. But with the Aiden Hutchinson news, it just had some loser's lament to it to me. So I didn't, really bring it up that much or whatever. So I'll ask you, because Nordo brought up something interesting earlier that I hadn't thought about. The Cashman Green Dot guy, he's the one who sets the defense, calls the plays. And there were breakdowns in communication yesterday. Shaq Griffin had an interview with Nacho after the game where he talked about it. So not having Cashman, not just the run stopper or backpedaling guy who's good against the pass. How badly did they miss Cashman yesterday?
That's a good question because it depends upon a lot upon who's making those calls. A lot of times at certain levels there's certain things, because we know like Harrison Phillips makes certain adjustments with the defensive line as far as if they're going to slant depending on the offensive formation. He's the guy that kind of runs that. Cashman is the green dot guy, blah blah blah. But he can't necessarily control, per se, what the safeties are doing, which way they're rolling, right? That kind of thing. That was, that's the Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown where the back end was completely disjointed after one guy went in motion. So how much would he help with that? I don't know. What was interesting, though, is I think we had four different defenders take the place of Cashman, because Dallas Turner lined up at linebacker. Andrew Van Ginkel lined up at linebacker. Camus Grugier-Hill was in there playing linebacker. Josh Metellus lined up as an inside linebacker. I'm more of a base down. We're not talking about, when he walks up inside and on a third down bit. No, none of that. I mean, these guys actually played off the ball linebacker. So it wasn't as if they just plugged a guy in to replace him. They had 3 or 4 guys sort of replace him in certain looks or certain defenses. So I don't know how well that experiment went. That's something else that you have to take a look at, or you take a look at the film and figure out, maybe it's better just to have a person go in there and replace Cashman. But it was a bit of an experiment in that regard, and how well that went. I mean, that's, I don't know. We'll see.
TJ Hawkinson might play Thursday. I mean, I guess it's an every game bit with him where he could come back anytime. So let's say it's Thursday, okay? And this is with all due respect to the tight ends who have been playing the position for 6 games. But through 6 games, the Minnesota Vikings tight ends have 18 receptions and 125 yards. TJ Hawkinson does that in 1 game. I'm not kidding you. I mean, how much is it going to help Darnold, Jefferson, and everybody when Hawkinson comes back?
The potential there, not just the potential is great, and the reason I say that is not because he's a good player. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more, or a little bit more man to man as we go. I think teams are going to feel confident enough to mix that in to get Darnold to hold on to the football. And the same, we go back when we first brought Hawkinson in, we were seeing a lot of 2-man with Cousins, because Cousins couldn't run the football or wouldn't run the football. And so if you decide to go and play a lot more man to man, whether it's blitz or the 2-man variety, somebody's going to be singled, and you got to have someone that can win consistently. So that's where Hawkinson entered the fray, as kind of that, as you like to call the whoopee, the nookie blankie, the guy underneath that's going to find a way to get open. You see it with the Kansas City Chiefs, right? That's the game that they play. but to have another resource, another guy underneath. Okay, and we know Darnold can attack cover two down the middle. He likes to throw the football. He has done it. So to have Hockenson in there, I think he's going to fit well, and I think that's the biggest benefit is maybe to give Darnold another option per se when it comes to certain coverages.
My brother, I'll see you later this week, maybe tomorrow when we're out there at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center.
Yeah, I think we take off in like a half hour, right? I mean, or tomorrow. When security start tomorrow.
Kwesi Adofo-Mensah joins the radio show tomorrow at 11. I appreciate your time. We'll talk soon, all right?
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate your time as well.
That's the analyst Pete Bercich, at Pete Bercich via Twitter for hardcore football takes. Lavelle Neal III, columnist for the Star Tribune, is around the corner. But first...
The Fan, along with two men in a junk truck, they want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword grand. You might win $1,000. At KFAN.com, the keyword is grand.
What's going on, buddy?
Nothing much, sir. Just enjoying what looks like it's going to be a glorious day here in the Twin Cities.
Indeed. Blue skies for today. Lavelle Neal III, weekly 9 to noon, courtesy of Allery's in St. Paul. He's a columnist for the Star Tribune, and he's ballyhooed. What'd you think of the Lynx game last night?
Crazy. Just crazy. The way it started. The Liberty couldn't string 3 passes together. They were missing all their shots from the perimeter. But the Lynx were better, but they had opportunity to really hammer on New York in the first quarter, I thought. And the game got tougher. Give New York credit. They raised the intensity defensively, because I think the Lynx only scored, 16 points in the second half and 2 in overtime, something like that.
Ooh.
Shocking number. And then the shenanigans with the officials. It's just unfortunate, because in sports you can look at so many things a team could have done better to keep themselves out of a situation where they get screwed by the referees. But man, it was pretty egregious what was going on at times late in the game. And Breonna Stewart took like 6 steps, and then there was no call. And then they called a very questionable foul that allowed her to go to the free throw line and hit 2 free throws. My problem with that is that, there's been contact this entire series. It's been a hard-fought physical battle. They've been crushing each other. And then all of a sudden, in the fourth quarter of Game 5, all of a sudden you're calling a ticky-tack call. And that was irritating to me. I really felt bad. I mean, the Lynx, if he hits a layup within 10 seconds, they're up by 4. And maybe we're talking about one's victory parade going down Hennepin Avenue, But it's not to be. I think Sherry had every right to be upset. Both coaches played the card during the series. Reeves did it, I think, in Game 3, and the Liberty coach did it in Game 4. And Reeves is seething after this one, and she has every right to. And I don't know how the commissioner of the WNBA can show up at a Game 5, a deciding game between two teams, and wearing a dress with the New York skyline on it. I mean, that's just a bad look.
Oh, wow.
They could have came up with some different color scheme, but she actually had like the New York skyline on this. I'm guessing a custom made dress. It's just a bad look. The league should be a little embarrassed about what transpired yesterday at the Brooklyn Center. Oh, sorry, Barclays Center.
Yeah, that's shocking. I did not, and I saw her on camera. I didn't know that. I wasn't looking closely enough. And by the way, Angel Reese was getting more camera time than the commissioner and a lot of players on the actually playing in the game. And how about her? How about her get up? Half Lynx, half Liberty.
I know. She found the camera after the game. I think they were showing Teresa Witherspoon or something in the stands, enjoying the moment. All of a sudden, there's Angel Reese clomping, so she can get her FaceTime. No, she just want to make sure she's invited to the Met Gala next year.
Yeah, right. By the way, Lavelle Neal III, courtesy of Valerie's Bar in downtown St. Paul, your home for free parking and wild shuttles. Lastly, here on the links, it's the every time the referees, the officials would get together and then like come up and talk into the microphone and stuff, it just had some rinky dink to it. It was almost like, you got Nafisa Collier, Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, the MVP, whose first name is eluding me right now.
Jonquel Jones.
Thank you. Phenomenal. A wonderful, wonderful player. So you got all of that. It was almost like the moment was too big for the referees, for the officials, because some of their explanations, I was, what? Huh? Can't say I've ever heard that one before.
I'm sorry. When in doubt, stay out of the way. Just don't interfere with a game. It's already been established that it was going to be contact and going to be physical, and it's been like that throughout the series. And I just thought a couple moments they held for weird things. And you're right. I think that's why Cheryl was calling for an independent arbiter somewhere in the arena to kind of save the officials from themselves. So
right.
I'm sure that's going to be a point of emphasis during off-season conversations among the coaches in the league. It did look bad, man. It did look weird at times. And I still can't believe they had a lengthy review of the Brown and Stewart Alana Smith collision and still came out and said, no, there was a foul there. There's no foul there. None. And that's a hell of a time to make a call like that.
Help me here with your column today. And you can read it at StarTribune.com or download the app. I'm reading it from the app right now, or go old school on it and pick up a newspaper. But it's a well written column. I mean, for what my opinion is worth, and I'm lockstep with you with Jared Goff. I mean, O'Connell told me into the game yesterday he's the best pure passer in the National Football League, and he's no longer like the most underrated player in the NFL. Jared Goff's the absolute poised bomb, as we saw yesterday. So now we get all the way through this column. We start talking about Darnold and Jordan Love and Caleb Williams for the Bears and stuff like that. And here's the last paragraph. Based on what's happened in recent weeks, Goff is the best quarterback in the division. Darnold would not be second or third.
Oh my gosh.
What the? How'd Sammy D catch that stray out of nowhere?
Well, first of all, if you read the paragraphs before that, I said everybody in the division likes their quarterback.
Yeah.
All four quarterbacks have performed well. So I'm not saying that Sam Darnold sucks. He's had a great run. One of my friends complained about whether the Bears haven't played anybody. I said, yeah, the Vikings schedule's been a little tougher, but the Giants and Jets are both hot garbage, and Sam played against those teams. I wasn't dissing Sam. I was trying to be provocative, undoubtedly, and I see he got the reaction out of you. But Caleb has thrown 7 touchdowns with 1 pick in his last 3 games. Mm-hmm. He's had a passer rating of over 120 in 2 of those 3 games. I'm sitting there, and there was some crazy stat that was out on the social media last week that said he's like in the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL in not throwing to their first read. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know they could track something like that, So there's growth there. And I'm just saying after the last 2 or 3 weeks, I'm just saying, make the argument that Caleb may be a tad better than Sam at this point. Let's see what happens going forward here. The Bears' schedule is going to eventually get a little tougher. We'll see what the Vikings will handle their next 3-4 games. But I'm just saying that their current power rankings, that's where I'm at.
Okay, well, I mean, and I'm not going to argue with you, but I mean, Darnold has a right to grow too. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, I think he's only 26 or 27, and it's not like the Jets and Carolina days don't count. They do. But from that situation, basically sitting out a year as a backup to the biggest, most grandiose opportunity of your life, I would expect him to grow through it early season, then middle season, which we're getting closer to. We start to see something else. And then in the stretch run, it's got to be better than those other two parts. So I sense Sam is also still growing despite not being a rookie. Would you agree?
I'll buy that. I'll buy that as well. I think that he started out like game busters. And although the last 2 or 3 weeks I heard the same thing out of the Viking side, is that, there's plays out there that should have been made or could have been made. And Sam admitted that after the game. Remember I ran into you in the media room? Sam came out after that and spoke. So
yep.
I mean, he was talking about stuff he left out there. So I've heard that more in the last 3 weeks than I did the first 3 weeks with him. And if he grows like a lot of people think he can, then he's gonna be moving up that order, maybe moving into number 2 over your boy Jordan Love.
Do you watch much college football? Like, do you watch the Big Ten outside of Millington's team, the Fighting Illini?
Occasionally, yes. I can't tell you that I've watched the Big Ten game every week, but I keep up with the league. I'm in a college football pool, so I'm always kind of trying to break down games.
Yeah. Well, the reason I bring it up is I hadn't watched Indiana play football since Jordan Howard was taking handoffs, and before that, Antoine Randall was a returner, secondary guy, wide receiver, and quarterback. But I caught the Hoosiers for about 30 minutes this weekend, and it was 30 minutes because I couldn't stop watching. Well, who knew? Unless you follow it closely, who knew? The Indiana Hoosiers are really good. Holy cow.
Yeah, I can't name their key players on offense, but I've been tracking their games. They destroyed UCLA earlier this year, and it was funny you brought up Indiana because in last week's pool I was in, I picked Indiana to cover, which I think they had covered in the first quarter against Nebraska. Nebraska is supposed to be a good team this year. They got Raiola at quarterback, and they thought they were going to take a step forward, but they lost at the crib to Illinois, and they've had a couple other hiccups since then. And now they go to Indiana and get waxed. So the Big Ten's been kind of weird, man, because things have not gone as people. It's been hard to see the conference clearly. With everything that's gone on, the Gophers beating USC and some other upsets going on. So Illinois being 6-1 through 7 games. Are you kidding me?
Right.
No one saw that coming. Good luck though. They got to pack a lunch when they go to Oregon this weekend. So it's been weird because I think the Pac-12 teams were supposed to come in and everybody thought, okay, they're going to automatically be good because they got speed and they're going to run past the big bruising boys from the Midwest. And it hasn't totally been the case other than Oregon.
Hey, in closing here, the last few minutes on this, we're both into it. With Finchie's team debuting tomorrow night at crypto.com or whatever it's called where the Lakers play. And then they go to Sacramento a couple of days later, so they'll hook DeMar DeRozan's new team. Into the season, off what we saw last year, Western Conference Finals, though, with what they've done, either via trades or drafting, is it NBA Finals or bust for you as a ballyhooed columnist, or is it like Western Conference Finals again? That's where they should go.
That's a hell of a question. It's hard for me to go there with the Wolves. Naturally you want to see a team take the next step. But the Western Conference is going to be a bloodbath this year. The Thunder added Hartenstein and Caruso, right?
Yeah.
Other teams are loaded up. I was laughing at the Denver Nuggets roster when they played the Wolves because they've got the skeletal remains of Russell Westbrook. They got the skeletal remains of DeAndre Jordan, and they got Dario Saric, who I thought was old, but he's still like 30, coming off the bench for that bit. So, Jamal Murray's there. They're going to still, Jokic is there. They're going to be there. Thunder are definitely going to be there. What's Memphis going to be like with Ja Morant now available for a whole year? I just think it's going to be appointment viewing all year long for the Western Conference and the WNBA. I'm sorry, in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of WNBA lately. So it's kind of hard for me to say finals or bust just because of the strength of the conference that the Wolves are in.
Well, would you say the OKC, Oklahoma City, with that Hartenstein move, and the Alex Caruso move is sneaky. He's an agitator, yeah. and you're a Bulls fan, so you've watched him. I mean, he ain't going to score much, can't shoot a lick from three, but he'll bug the bleep out of you as a perimeter defender. So I like that move for sure. And they got SGA and Jalen Williams, the big guy who can shoot from the outside, and Chet Holmgren and so on. Would you make Oklahoma City the favorite to get to the NBA Finals from the West?
Favorite, I don't know if I can go there, Paul. Like I said, I think it could be the Wolves. It could be the Nuggets. It could be Oklahoma City. I think I saw the Wolves. Someone had the Wolves ranked fourth. I thought that was a little unfair to the Wolves, given everything they achieved the year before. But the league is looking at this trade with the Knicks, going, well, the Knicks ended up with the best player. And I think they're devaluing the Wolves because of that. I don't see it that way. I'm looking at the roster, and I was laughing. I was like, Finch may have an 11-man rotation this year. He's got too much talent. But there's still going to have to be an adjustment period. We won't know for sure. If Finch even said last week, we're going to need 20 games. We're going to need 20 games to figure things out, who we are, what we have, who's going to do what, and how we're going to win games this year. Just because, they show up for camp, I think in 23 days the season begins, So they need some of that the first part of the season to get acclimated and figure out what the hell they have. But OKC really looks good. If you put a gun in my head and said who you're going to put in the top seed in the West, I probably would say OKC.
And look at us have this conversation in closing, thinking about the Western Conference. You brought up Denver, and they got this Strother cat that they're really high on, who can shoot threes because they're a bad 3-point shooting team. Okay, well, he's very inexperienced, so that can't be the elixir there. We talked about OKC and what was added. And through this entire conversation, like Golden State wasn't mentioned one time, and they still have Steph Curry. So like Golden State with Steph and Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins and some other things that they're trying to do. I mean, is it fair to say the Golden State Warriors are a 1%er to make it to the NBA Finals?
I would totally agree with that. I thought you were going to say 1%er to make the postseason. I was like, I think they'll still make it. I think you're right. And what about the Lakers? No one's talking about J.J. Redick and the impact he's going to have, with the Lakers taking over for Darvin Ham. Is Bronny James actually going to get on the court as a rookie? I don't know. So the Clippers are trying to restructure after who left? Was it Kawhi didn't leave? He's still there. So Paul George left, right? Yeah. George is with the
Philly,
right?
Yeah, Philly.
So you got some traditionally strong teams there that we're automatically kind of discounting, and maybe the new Lakers coach is the right voice in that locker room right now. And Anthony Davis and LeBron continue to defy logic, and LeBron turning 40 and still balling out the way he is. So, Golden State, I would say 1% chance of going to the finals. I mean, it's great to have Steph Curry. He's such a wonderful player. Draymond, for all the crap he causes on the court, his offensive IQ is probably as high or higher than anyone else in the league. All the little dirty work, setting screens, moving off the ball, being able to move the ball to the right spot at the right time. He's really good at that. But rebounding's been an issue with them, and I don't know how much they've addressed it during the offseason. But I can't see Golden State. I would say 1% chance to even get to the conference finals, to be honest with you.
Thanks for the chat. Have a wonderful day. Best of luck tomorrow with your Tuesday, and we will talk soon, okay?
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate the words. and enjoy one of our last beautiful days of the year.
Yes, sir. Lavelle Neal III, columnist for the Star Tribune, at Lavelle Neal via Twitter. And his inclusion, 9 to noon, is provided by Allery's Bar in downtown St. Paul, your home of free parking and wild shuttles.
Fan.
Brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. You're feeling the felt all year round, right? Poker, table games, blackjack, you're having sips of chips. There's also the NFL Pick'em game on Thursdays. Just need a free MVP card. You can get that done. So there's plenty of ways to win money, plenty of ways to have fun. CanterburyPark.com for all official details. We've handled the Vikings at length and will continue to do so during the final hour. But let's head around to a couple of notable situations in the NFL, starting with the Niners.
1st and 10 at the Niner 18-yard line. Here comes the end around on a jet sweep. It goes to Hardman, cuts it back, and goes into the end zone, right to left on the jet sweep. McCole Hardman.
That's courtesy of Mitch Holtis, Chiefs Radio. The Chiefs win the game 28-18, a day in which Patrick Mahomes threw for 154 yards at 5.7 a clip, no touchdowns, 2 picks. Oh, but the team continues on to win, and they're 6-0. Kareem Hunt, they just roll him in from the street. He goes for 78 yards and a couple of short yardage touchdowns. The news on that day, while we're lamenting the Vikings' loss, is that Brandon Ayuk, PA, 2 catches, 23 in the day, took a nasty shot to the knee. They haven't confirmed it yet, but it may be an ACL. Trent Williams ejected for punching a guy in the game yesterday. I forget who the Chiefs defender was. He took the first swing. It's always the guy that retaliates, right? And so it was ugly yesterday for the Niners in the Bay, who are 3-4. They're still trying to figure out that process or that recovery bit with Christian McCaffrey. The 3-4 San Francisco 49ers are in a deep level of pain and misery right now, PA.
Andy Reid, the fan has learned, never loses off the bye. I don't know what the number is, but it's like, I don't know.
It is a ridiculously
like 18-2.
Something like that, yeah.
Right. He just has his squad so squared away, and having Patrick Mahomes helps. But the way you laid that out, specifically with Trent Williams, I didn't know that part. Where Niners, it says here, Niners All-Pro left tackle Trent Williams was ejected late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, who's the guy he punched again?
Safety Brian Cook.
There it is, yeah.
Well, he punched him in the helmet. I mean, so now not only was he mad, he was dumb. Because you could break your hand that way.
I would bet, though, Trent Williams, even if I'm wearing a helmet, his punches hurt.
Yeah.
I walk away from that feeling something.
Oh, yeah. Same thing with Will Reichert. That's why when the 58-yarder against the Texans, it hit the upright. And what happened after it hit the upright?
The laws of physics were defied, and the upright yielded.
I always love that one. And the football went through. They're imploding. There's some implosion when stuff like this starts to happen. There's a little bit of an implosion with these 49ers right now.
Yeah, Debo left with an illness, but it was an undisclosed illness. He just didn't come back, didn't even have a catch in the game. Like, it was weird at times. And Purdy did not look purdy
right
yesterday either.
I'd like, if I'm a Niners fan or we're doing 9 to noon on KNBR and Greg Papa keeps clipping in on our show,
Nardi!
I'd want to do some type of a deep dive on Brock Purdy just to figure out what we have.
Yeah.
With the Halloween approaching and clock strikes midnight, now all of a sudden something turns to a pumpkin.
Right.
It's difficult for anybody to take away CMC, and then Debo has some problem, no catches, you say, and left tackle guy HOF throwing punches at helmets. And Ayuk, wow.
And Ayuk with the knee, yeah.
And Juwan Jennings didn't play in the first place.
He was out, that's
right.
He
scratched, and they elevated Ricky Pearsall. So that's a lot to overcome. I'd have to think this out a little more. I mean, they did get outscored 14-6 in the final quarter, and they lost by 10, where the Niners don't usually lose games by 2 scores. They'll lose, but not by 2 scores or more.
Wasn't Ricky Pearsall, by the way, I think in August, was shot by a robber on the street.
I think it was the same guy who shot Linval in the ankle
Outside that club back in the day?
outside that club.
Took that calf?
Right after we signed him and gave him the money. And why isn't Linval playing in the preseason? Oh, he got shot.
Just standing around.
Right.
He was hanging out, sipping on some soda, just excited, new city, new people, just trying to meet some friends.
They caught a stray.
He did catch a stray.
That legitimately is the definition of the term catching a stray. Sam Darnold caught a hard stray from Lavelle Neal III. He's just minding his business. Just went toe-to-toe with Aaron Glenn and this defense. And you know what? I can play better, but I made some plays at the end that, where I can rest my head on my pillow and feel pretty good about myself. Cracks open the Star Tribune. He's like, what? I just caught a stray. Seriously, Wobble, stop trying to ruin our dreams, man.
Mixed emotions in Cleveland, PA over the weekend as Deshaun Watson, and the team has confirmed it is indeed an Achilles injury, and it would appear that his season is over.
Very curious to see where you're going with this mixed emotions vibe and Deshaun.
Well, it's for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
All of the off-field, the sexual assault-related court cases and settlements and all of those things.
That keep hitting him.
And so then there's the balance. There's the human element of not cheering for injury, right? As Vikings fans, we all know
I feel you.
that playing the Kitties without Aiden Hutchinson, that's better than playing the Kitties with Aiden Hutchinson. But we don't want him to break his leg. Similarly, you want athletes on Sunday to play their best. The result, win or lose, you go home with, like you said, laying your head on your pillow. Well, Deshaun Watson drawing the ire in the public square since these allegations and charges and convictions and settlements, et cetera, have come out. When he tears his ACL, you can imagine that the crowd might react a little bit differently in this case than on average. And here's Kevin Stefanski talking about some in the crowd cheering after Watson's injury.
I don't think it's ever okay to cheer when someone's injured. I'm sure it's not every person in that building doing that, but that's disappointing.
So they're done with Watson for the year, and there will be some that are very happy about that. And is Jameis the backup? Jameis is it's Jameis there, and Jameis was talking about fans cheering about it after the game as well. But they lost to the Bengals. They're a one-win operation. They've already traded away one of their wide receivers. And it's super ugly for a two-time coach of the year on the shores of Lake Erie.
Yeah, it's super ugly. That's the best way to put it. I think Chicknub returned yesterday.
He did, yes. I think he got into the end zone, too.
Did he? Yeah, so that's going to help them. But you laid it out nicely from the mixed emotion standpoint. You could hear it in Kevin Calm's voice. My take on it, for whatever it's worth, would be so he pops the Achilles. And now you're not going to have him for the year, but he was bad in the first place. All right. So what does that mean with Jameis or whomever's going to fill in? Is it going to mess with your opportunity to fix this problem and lose enough games because you're in position now and you're not going to fix games, but quite honestly, you're not very good.
Right.
So you might get that Texas quarterback, or you might get one of these two or three that are supposedly going to fit in the National Football League immediately. That needs to be thought out, how games are constructed and stuff like that, for where your record is now, which I believe is 1-5 or 1-6 or something like that. Holy cow, the Calm's 1-6. Secondly, now I don't, it's like I don't believe in karma. Okay, I don't believe in luck. I don't believe in happenstance. So with that said, I'm not going to go down the road of you don't do something because it's bad karma. No, you just don't. I don't care what you think you know or what you think you've seen about somebody professionally speaking. It's of the loser variety to cheer when somebody's being carted off a field. Anybody. And that's that. And I bet you a bunch of those same Browns fans probably cheered for Kareem Hunt when he played for them and was getting into the end zone. And you know what? They just must not have had video access via social media and stuff like that. You're fools, you're frauds, and just stay quiet. I just believe that's what I would do. Doesn't mean it's right, but that's the best approach, how I see it from a Browns fan standpoint. I mean, you just, it can be a look in the mirror moment too. It's like something bad has happened to somebody and you're out of your seat cheering. I'll just leave it like that.
Well, and from a pragmatic standpoint, I do think about kind of how this looks moving forward now for the team. So cheering bit, but Deshaun Watson is a polarizing character who has not been playing well. The team is losing games. He is no longer in the mix. I wonder how Stefanski handles that. And I would never put, I don't know the situation. So, is the guy you're paying $230 guaranteed million to going to get a much longer leash as the starter? And how much are you going to equate to the running back not being in the mix and some inefficiencies? And, the way we're nitpicking our team today, they can do the same in Cleveland. But taking the polarizing character out of the mix, I wonder how that changes things.
That's a fair point.
Moving forward.
Well, you have to get back to who truly wanted Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Was it the general manager? Was it the head coach? Or was it the owner? So you start there, and that's where you build it from there, because the only way to answer your question about like what's next and how far do you go and can you push on him in different ways, and if you finish with a record that gets you the first, second, third, or fourth pick in the draft, you absolutely have to get an offensive lineman and then trade again and come way back up and get another offensive lineman. Yeah, it's a long, winding conversation, but it can't be started until you know who was responsible for banging the fist on the table, saying the guy facing all the allegations, the guy who might go to jail, the guy who's showing no contrition, the guy who is facing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. Yeah, we want him. So we want that guy. What? So who has the power to lay out, we want him and we're going to get him?
Yeah.
Because if the person who has that type of control is somebody you can't eyeball and say, we messed up, you messed up. Okay, now it doesn't have to be, let's not, we ain't got to beat somebody down over it. I mean, it's done. We're not going to dwell. We can't change it now. The moving part forward, you can. The moving part, it's quite honestly what I would do. I would cut him, and I would eat whatever money I have to eat. I don't want him at the facility.
Correct.
Okay, we never should have had him at the facility in the first place. The PTSD through which he's going, we should have seen that coming. How can he not have PTSD of his own?
He can't escape.
Because of what he went through or what he put people through. And by the way, it keeps popping up. They're like, he's catching strays left and right from different situations.
Well, those might not be strays, though.
Right.
That might be direct.
Well, yeah, for sure. Might be direct hits on an ear. And now all of a sudden he has one ear. Maybe that's why I can't hear the play calls. But I get rid of him. That's it. I don't want to see him anymore. God bless you, man. I'm not the one who judges. That's between you and your maker. But I just don't want you around anymore because everything's just awful, and it's been awful ever since you got here.
And we shouldn't have made the decision in the first place.
Yeah, you go ahead and tell Jimmy that.
Eat that money. Mm-hmm. Well, there's nothing. If Jimmy just walked in the door right now, I personally could tell Jimmy that, actually.
Yeah, and he'd tell you to F off.
Well, when you're in a position of power, you can tell people to F off once in a while, and it's all smiles and hugs at the end of the day. That's news to Nord. I have some Cheryl Reeve related audio.
Yes,
but I think
no. Let's drop it with Parker because I'm getting into that right out of the gate.
That's what I'm saying. Let's flip it over the side and Parker Fox in studio.
P. Fox played a game this weekend too for Ben Johnson's Golden Gophers against the old Bemidji State Beavers. How did it go? What's he think of the Wolves? What do you think of Brianna Stewart being permitted to take 9 steps last night, and everybody complains about the phantom foul? What about the travel? Does anybody want to talk about this travel here these idiots missed? And the Vikings-Lions games, too, because P. Fox is a big local sports fan, and we'll get his thoughts around the corner at FM 100.3 KFAN.